it's a 2019 General Assembly season is over. Right
That's over.
Yeah.
That was over at the end of February, around February 27th.
Yes. And then, so how many new bill you tried or your bill is passed?
Well, I put in probably about eight or 10 bills.
So how many bill is do not pass your bill?
Well, since most of them are the gun bills, I don't think any of them passed. I had a couple in 2018 that were big that passed. The one that brought the Metro money, back up the yearly 154 million. Unfortunately, because of Hugo, a lot of that's come out of our Transportation Authority, which has taken road money from Northern Virginia, road building money. And Tim's to blame for that. And also the 966 requiring Dominion to build 5,000 megawatts of solar and wind, which will be mostly solar by 2028, as well as they've got to spend $1 billion upgrading the grid and $130 million over the 10 years in assistance for people who have trouble paying their bills. And also they have to return the $125 million a year they get every year as a result of the Trump tax cut. That all goes back to the ratepayers.
So how about gun control? It is
so far we haven't passed any bills that help the situation because of the Republican Party. It's not going to change as long as the Republicans are in office.
So it is Republican is not going to change.
As long as the Republicans control the General Assembly. People cannot vote for Republicans and then ask us to do something about the gun problem. That doesn't work.
I see. How about education?
Well, that's another problem that we have. While we are appropriating more and more money for K through 12, and not as much so for higher ed, although I'll get to that in a second, we are funding K through 12 at the same level that we did in 2008, only there's about 50,000 more students, and we're funding higher education at the same level we did 14 years ago. And we did add an additional, we put this in the budget conference, $55 million to get the colleges to hold their tuition this coming fall at the same rate that it was last September. But we need to do more.
I understand. But so right now it's July. July is maybe
right.
It's a new law starting.
Oh, it's July 1st. Yeah.
And then so what do you think is how will this is impact new law, new bill, so people that in Virginia?
Well, we didn't do anything, earth-shaking. I mean, there were things like you can advertise happy hours. You can, we're studying, one of the things they're doing now is they're studying, how to set up these gambling casinos from a state standpoint. We didn't make any major changes to the criminal code or the civil code. The bulk of it was just budgetary action.
So many Korean American like you, I think. So do you know it's a Korean American community, right?
I've had events with, thanks to Hyun, with a lot of people. I've had a lot of interaction with the people in the Korean American community.
Any plan is for Korean community or Korean thing?
Well, not a basic plan. I would encourage them to get involved in Virginia politics. There's a tendency on the part of immigrant groups in this country, and not just Koreans, but from all over, to pay more attention to the federal government than to the state. Yet 85 to 90% of the laws that they have to live by on a daily basis are state laws. Speed limits, stop signs, criminal code, civil code are basically all state. But the biggest problem we have is getting the immigrant community, and like I said, doesn't matter where they're from, it's the same, with all of them, and always has been, to get them interested in local and state politics as opposed to just national.
What do you think is Donald Trump is 11 days ago he visited South Korea DMZ,
Right.
and then he meeting the Kim Jong-un.
Right.
So what do you think? So he's everything is
Well,
something
I think that Kim Jong-un is getting the best of him. I think he's playing him like a fiddle. And Kim Jong-un, and at least from what I can see, is not going to disarm his country. And the other thing, none of these meetings that he's had with Kim Jong-un have turned out well. None of them. I mean, he goes away and he says, well, he's going to do it. He doesn't. I mean, apparently they come away with two different opinions on what the results were. And this is what happens when you deal with dictators, whether it's Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin. The results are always the same. And you can't deal with a dictator like that and think you're going to change him.
So what do you think? So Kim Jong-un is a North Korea nuclear bomb.
Right.
So something.
I don't see him giving that up.
Never give up.
I'm not saying he's ever going to use it, but he keeps it as a bargaining chip.
So is Trump say so everything is Kim Jong-un is a good relationship?
I don't think it's a good relationship.
Not good relationship.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't think it's going to influence a lot of votes one way or another, I mean, these are stories that don't last very long. The two biggest things that drive a presidential election generally are the economy and how well individuals are doing. It's because presidential politics always comes down to what have you done for me lately?
I see.
Yeah, you heard the story where one politician goes up to a person and he says, geez, Joe, I know I can count on you to vote for me. He says, well, I don't know. He says, what do you mean you don't know? I said, when you lost your job, I got you the unemployment when they weren't going to give it to you. When your mom got sick, I got her medical help. When she wasn't getting her Social Security checks, I got that fixed for you. He says, when you had that problem with the street, I got it paved. And the guy says to him, yeah, but what have you done for me lately? Well, that's what politics are about.
It's in Northern Virginia, most especially in Virginia, all the way. So
Right.
a lot of Korean people, they small business doing many people small business.
Right.
And then right now, it's small business economy not good right now. So do you? think-
Well, one of the reasons that small businesses are struggling is because they are in businesses that generally they're competing with the Walmarts, the Amazons, the Targets, the stores like that, which is one of the reasons as the online business grows, it affects the small business more than the large businesses. And it doesn't affect the technology businesses at all. I mean, if as time goes on, you take a look at the Science High School over here, which draws from an area that's 12% Asian, and that's about 65% of the school, is that as these kids go through college, start their own technology companies, you're going to see a totally different thing. It won't be the corner grocery store. It'll be, a data center. It'll be a technology think tank. It'll be those types of businesses which aren't as adversely affected by the Amazons of this world.
Yeah, this year is in Virginia is election time.
Right.
So I think you're doing very well. But what is your campaign's public promise? Election campaign.
Campaign promises? Well, I don't generally make a lot of promises. I do tell people that what will happen if we're in the majority. Generally, when we've been in the majority, it's been better for schools, it's been better for small businesses, it's been better for higher education, it's been better for transportation when we're in the majority. And I mean, to make specific promises, you know, is hard to do, because if you're not in the majority, you know, you need to know. We'll formulate a program, make no mistake about that, but it's going to be contingent on us being in charge. I mean, people know where I am on the choice issue. They know where I am on crime issues. They know where I am on, you know, business, general business issues. So, I mean, nothing will change as far as my basic philosophy. What we may be able to accomplish will depend on who's in charge.
Yeah, in Korean community, it's a big community right now. But
Right.
yeah, so Hyun Jung-lee is a lot of support to you.
The what?
Hyun Jung-lee is a lot
Yeah.
of support to you.
Well, he gets a lot of publicity, which is unfortunate, because of the South Korea community and business has a far bigger impact on the world than Kim Jong-un. Far bigger.
I know, yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable that he would give all this time and attention to him when South Korea is a loyal ally, has a tremendous impact on the world economic scene. Why we're spending 5 minutes with him versus trying to make things a lot better in the South is beyond me.
Do you have been Korea, South Korea?
No, I have not. I've been to Japan, been to the Philippines, been to Thailand, been to Pakistan, but I haven't been to China, haven't been to Korea or India. Flown over them, but that's about it.
Do you have any to say the Korean community?
I think we've got a good chance of picking up 3 seats at a minimum. I really do. That's number one. Number two, what I would say to the immigrant community is it is absolutely necessary, if you're going to see good change that has positive effects for the immigrant community and not the demagoguing of an immigrant community, you need to go out and you need to support your local Democratic candidates. Find out who they are and support them. Make sure if you can contribute to their campaign, great. If you can't, that's okay, but you can go and vote. That doesn't cost anything. And ask yourself this: are you better off with Trump's party in power if you're an immigrant community, or are you better off with the Democrats in power? Just ask yourself that.